Okay. It is now, Tamika, just so you know, Darren Ross is here. He's just trying to log in. So he is here. It is 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 15th of April. I am opening up the Finance Committee for the town of Rutland. Only item on the agenda this evening is budget discussion. So, like discussed on Tuesday, tonight would be going through the budget. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
You just gotta log me in.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Plus.
Yep.
Accepting.
Sorry. I'm not good at this stuff. Tonight, like discussed on Tuesday, tonight would be the night that we're going to go through and reinstate those potential cuts that we made if the $500,000 override passes.
And as a point of information,
yep.
What criteria are we using to be able to assess what cuts should be refunded by the override if it occurs?
It's really up to each and every one of us. I know myself, I know myself as a person would like to reinstate people that we cut in half or cut out, as best we can. So because of the impact statements that we've received, we've seen how that's going to do such damage. So
if we were to try and establish a process that would say that we would go back and look where we might have had to affect, just call it head count.
Yep. And
say we would reinstate that head count and the associated dollars with it. And then the remaining unused override, could we then just go back and sort of ping pong that back for us?
Yep.
And then from that perspective, we do the same thing that we do with the unedited. We acknowledge with the vote that we had that says, this is where, Joe, you are now.
Yep.
You go do what you have to do to make it right.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. Everybody understand?
Can I make one comment?
Okay, go ahead.
So just to be clear, there's some of the cuts, as we've been talking about, a whole bunch of cuts we outlined that can't be part of the 500,000. So things like the savings from debt, the health insurance savings, those are all going to be things that we have to put in the budget that's not part of the 500,000. So those kind of things you would exclude from bringing back under the 500 because they have to be part of the total budget no matter what. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, no, I'm sorry, it doesn't to me.
Yeah, because we got the savings in the debt.
Yep.
That's going to stay regardless, so we don't need to up the debt because we've already got the savings.
Right.
Yep.
And the savings in the health insurance, they've made the change to go to the alternative plan, so that savings is going to stay the same.
Okay.
So those things aren't going to.
But didn't the change that was made, isn't that represented as an adjustment? No? Okay. So it's not part of the cuts that we have anyway.
It is and it isn't, because the finance committee, the select board decided they were going to go with the alternative, whatever alternative it was. So that's the health insurance plan they're going with. Period. End of story. We move on.
Okay.
And all those things that are described as revenues that we talked about savings, because we're talking about cuts from the deficit, all those things described as revenues are also not part of that 500,000.
Yes.
Okay.
We're going through, Ron, just so you know, we go through the actual general government budget that you have on the spreadsheet. That's what we go through.
Summary sheet, okay.
Okay.
So on some level, we're basically starting with the cuts that we had proposed when I think things had gotten to a number of, that's not, I can't even say that, the 624, 515, right? Because after that, there were some.
Ultimately, these are reinstating some of those cuts that we went through and did.
And you wouldn't necessarily, anybody, we wouldn't necessarily be better served by saying 500 500,000 is X percent of the entire budget, we would percentage-wise return that. That's not necessarily the way, because we didn't really cut it that way.
Right, right.
Okay. I suspect that question gets asked unless it's.
Yes, yes, because the fact is we've hit some departments more than others because of limitations that we have with other departments.
And there may be, for instance, in reading Perry's letter about
Yes.
whether or not we knock them into decertification.
Exactly,
That might be something that we'd say, you know what, let's not put ourselves in that position again.
exactly,
Ugly last time we did it.
exactly.
But to be clear, if we don't get the 500,000,
Those cuts will still
that's going to
happen.
happen.
Exactly.
Okay?
Actually, I don't know if we've done the math on that yet, but
No,
Well, okay. Theoretically.
we're
yeah,
gonna be,
it's gonna be
darn
close.
close.
Yeah, it's darn close, but we didn't hit them any harder than we hit other departments.
Okay.
Okay, so. So. Where do we want to start? At the top and go down? What do we want to do?
Well, that worksheet follows the workbook.
Yep, it does.
Okay, so let's go back, just go down through and see.
That's what I said. Yep, that'll work out great. All right, so
So,
we have the select board. We took away their stipend.
so without saying we should give that back specifically, I guess I wouldn't be. So now we're picking, well, maybe the stipend goes back in. I think I'd rather say, let's wait till the end.
Okay,
And if it was really specific, and if it was a person, if we cut a selectman, that's not gonna happen, but
Yeah.
if we were to do that, then I'd say, let's put the selectman back.
okay, so then why,
Karen, just a question.
Yeah.
Are you tallying up
yes,
the 500,000?
yes,
Okay.
yes. That's why I'm sitting over here.
Well, that's why I did well.
That's why I'm on the Chromebook, because I gotta do this.
So you're essentially creating a new spreadsheet that is.
I'm creating another column in there that says, with the $500,000 override passing.
So that's the sentence was the only thing I was select person.
Yeah, so if we're gonna do that, why don't we go down and start from the bottom up, because we hit a lot more at the bottom than we did.
Let me, if I could, Madam Chairwoman, let me make one more comment. Hopefully this helps. So all the things that you put in the 500 are things you give back. All the things that you don't put in the 500 are kind of automatically funded. So things like debt service have to be automatically funded. Insurance has to be automatically funded. But the hiring back of the 7 officers probably should be going back. The selectmen's salaries should be going back with the 500. These are things that the things that the town, I guess, would most want to cut, are the $500,000 of things that you got to decide you give up if the override doesn't pass. So the most important are the cuts that are, oh God, I'm having a time saying it. The cuts that are the things that you're willing to give up if you don't get the 500 grand. And those might be nasty cuts that you're showing to the public, but that's what you're doing, because anything other than the 500 grand technically is going to be funded by the revenue we already have. Hope I'm saying that right, Karen, but I think you know what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. Okay, so we, why do I have such difficulties? Thing is because my one at work is just slightly different than the one I have at home, and I'm like, crap. Do this all day, I come home and I'm like, I can't do this.
There you go.
Okay, so why don't we start with the library? Because let's start so we're gonna start at the bottom and work our way up, because we hit a lot more with people at the end. So I would say that the library aides
Go
are
back,
important.
go back in.
Any discussion?
No, I agree.
Okay,
And that would be about her aid in her salary and everything else would be about $69,993. So we go back didn't know.
I'm only taking from the cuts,
Is
see,
that the spread you're working on, or am I on something different?
that's the one, and I don't know when I sent that to you.
Okay.
I sent you one on
Just sent one yesterday.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday night, I sent you the one that had all the final numbers in. So what I'm gonna do is, out of the FinCom recommended cuts,
Right,
I'm saying we're gonna add back I'm not doing the total numbers.
right.
I'm doing, so we took out 2808, so I'm gonna put back in the 2808.
Correct.
That's all I'm doing. I'm not calculating, this is just like the spreadsheet I have where it just shows the pluses and the minuses just to get to the
Add
500.
that.
And
What else do we
that
have?
would be for the wage, for the, aides.
That's for the aides.
What column is it on yours? Did you add?
W. Oh, no, I added X.
Okay.
So that's,
Okay,
So-
And I will send this out this evening.
and then did we take away from the directors?
No, that's COLAs and stuff, and let's wait on that. Let's go
Okay.
back and reinstate those that we cut.
Okay,
You're just talking staff,
right, take
right?
that.
Yeah, just staff.
Okay,
Okay, so the next thing would be the outreach worker.
I'm sorry, I'm gotta admit, I'm even a little confused. The things you're talking about, like the library staff is coming back as part of the 500 if the override passes, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so these are the things that people are gonna compare when they vote for the override. These are the things that they're trying to save with the vote for the override.
That is correct.
Right.
so the outreach worker is,
17,190.
So I have a question then.
Yeah.
Since we proposed the cut and we last meeting voted the latitude for the department heads to move that cut,
Mhm.
do we have current enough information
Yes.
to say those are still there?
There's only one change that I am aware of from what I read in all those impact statements that we got today, and that is the police.
Okay.
The police chief did make a personal sacrifice to save his secretary. Okay,
so the outreach goes back.
outreach goes back. It's, go ahead.
We're good.
Yep, so that's an add of 17,190 because it's,
Yep.
we don't have to pay the
Good.
unemployment, okay? So then we have Board of Health. We have Board of Health.
Stipends.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the clerical wages. I think that's, nope, that's just her step, so we don't need to worry about that. I'm just trying to make sure that I don't miss anybody.
Right, gotcha.
I'd rather be doubly sure than, oops. Okay. Okay, so. Highway is gonna be kind of a mess.
Yeah, PPW.
DPW, because he moved stuff to sewer enterprise.
What does we say, Board of Health, we were gonna restore that?
We aren't gonna restore anything because that's,
Very little.
Well,
Cold.
that's, right now, we're not doing that, because now we're doing restoring people.
whatever we cut from the $60,000, I think the number, right, somewhere around there for the,
No, and I, no.
yeah,
Okay,
we should just put that back because I don't care what he restores, that's one of the things we need to put back.
okay. Is everyone in agreement on that one?
Yeah, so.
Yes.
Okay,
So Karen, there's one little trick to that. I think Joe, in his sheets that he gave you, moved money out of other places to put it back in snow and ice. So that means the money he took and put in snow and ice is gonna have to go back to the other accounts.
that's okay.
Yeah.
When we give him these, he can spread them back, because I didn't have the time tonight in the, 45 minutes that I was home to put them all in.
Yeah.
I think the thing is making sure that he gets that money back into his budget.
Right.
And then he can reverse engineer it the way he engineered it the first time, to
Okay,
his
so
satisfaction.
there we go.
Yep.
All right. I don't, I gotta now find the stupid piece of paper. Not having these things electronically is very painful.
Can we say we could take more out of the educational line?
It's a thought, but,
Yeah, it's not a good thought. It's not.
it's not. It's a good thought.
You shouldn't want cameras looking. The thing for me is that this is going to end up being maybe a foregone conclusion, because I don't know that another town, if they're going to have one other town that's going to say no on the school. So the school then will become,
Yeah. The
de
priority.
facto done, it's just going to be approved. So then we're going to be working with the rest of these things. Whether or not we get the override, if we get the override, good, so the money comes back.
Well, there's always the potential that the school will fail. And then,
Where would it fail, Ken? Where do you think it might fail?
Holding or Paxton.
if another town votes it down,
Yeah, but I haven't seen anything so far. I haven't heard anything so far.
oh, there's been write-ups in the paper from Paxton and Holden, and
Well, Hogan said that it looks like they're not going with the override.
they're not going with the override, but they still don't think that the school is right.
Okay, so if that's the case, then they still have to come. I
There is
just
a
read it
potential,
saying-
okay, so.
I believe one of the issues is that you then don't know what the new budget from them
That
might
is-
look like.
Yeah.
Someone the other night, I think.
They can
gave
adjust it by
$1
$1. Yep.
lower, and
That's all they have to do.
that doesn't accomplish much.
Okay,
They can also, if they know in the last minute that they're in a bind, can readjust our assessment, correct or false?
False.
yeah, I don't think they can.
They cannot, because right now, the school committee has voted on it, so that budget stands until two towns vote it down.
I think it is what it is. It might even come down, but you can't.
Okay.
Okay, it looks like he's moved, looks like we haven't taken any one from highway. It looks like they just moved over to the enterprise account. There's adjustments.
The enterprise account is part of the overall appropriation budget, or?
No, that's the sewer, water and sewer.
That's,
Yep.
revolving fund.
Yep.
Good.
Okay. Okay. Animal control officer. Yeah, no, this is miserable. Okay, so we hit. So can somebody tell me, this is where somebody's got to go back to here to tell me, the animal control officer, is that cut a cut, or is that just COLA and two?
So Karen, if I recall correctly, and I don't have your sheet of cuts in front of me, but you guys, we actually gave her a pay increase and a kind of a step to increase her salary. You cut that. But you remember we gave her extra hours. We took hours away from the part-time person that gave it to her. So she still got a net increase from last year's because of those hours. So
Just look and tell me.
so the number's still higher than last year's numbers with her.
1661.89.
That said that there were steps and 2% COLA,
Okay, so
so
then,
we probably took
Okay.
that out.
okay, so it looks like it's the same thing. Okay.
Put that on back in.
Huh?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
So you,
If we're gonna we do it one way and then we do it another. We can't do half and half because we can't give some to some and none to the others. Okay. 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 All right, so here's part-time wages for the fire department, $10,000.
To be clear, if the $500,000 override passes, all of the COLAs and steps could go back into the budget. If the $500,000 passes.
So we're doing,
We are gonna go through this methodically, Ron. I know you don't like my means of going through things, but this is how we go through it so that we understand it, because we need to be very clear as to how we went about this, so that we don't miss anything.
I'm not trying to change the process. I'm just making a general statement that if you remember when I did the down to the 260,000, that did not include all the COLAs and cuts. So I'm just saying that if you, in the general principle that, you know, if we got the $500,000 override, all of that could go back in. That's all.
Karen, yes to that.
Okay,
The fire department, yes, the
Okay.
10,000.
I put the 10,000 in for the part-time,
Next,
for the part-time wages. Okay, so now the police, he moved a boat.
his recommendation was from,
Yeah, but I gotta figure that out, so I make sure I put it, you know what, I can just take it where it was, and he can just add it, right?
yeah,
There we go. So there's the 23,222.16. Okay, so I've now put clerical wages, although he has made changes on the impact statement. Here's the question. We cut $45,000 out of the part-time wages.
correct.
So,
I want to reinstate it.
okay. Any discussion on reinstating the 45? Okay. Want to make sure I don't.
No, you're doing just fine.
Okay, we cut overtime.
What's that?
We cut overtime,
what do we cut it by?
13,475.
Reinstated.
Everyone in agreement to reinstate the 13,475?
Let's just highlight it, if we can. I can highlight it on my
Yep.
notes.
I can do it, no problem.
Just in case we're getting close to the 500,000. I don't think we're going to by my calculations
Yep,
earlier today.
We should be
but
fine.
Yeah.
Well, do we know how many overtime hours?
Roughly, I don't.
Okay.
But I'm okay with putting it back.
Okay. So. Okay. I'm going to make the motion that we put back David, the town planner, to full-time position.
Agree.
I am going to, we took 15 grand out of the assistant town clerk. I would say we put that back as well.
Yes, agree.
David, if you have any disagreements, you gotta speak up, okay?
Oh, don't worry. I'm not afraid to talk.
Okay,
I don't even want to go down that trail, but you go now.
He's my guy.
I know, you have no choice.
Yeah, he's my guy.
Kind of related. Okay.
all right, I would say we reinstate the 15,
And so say that again.
replace the 15 for the assistant treasurer,
Yes.
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 okay?
Can we stop for 1 second, just to pause?
Yep.
Didn't we cut secretarial staff for the police department? And then I know we switched it, he's gonna do that, but isn't, we just didn't put that back in.
I did, I just put it in at that line, because that's what we took out.
Okay, but I thought we did 45 for the part-time officers. There was another line there that we did?
Yeah, we cut his clerical.
Okay, but all right.
We cut his
Put it back
clerical.
in. We're good.
Yep.
Just double checking.
Yep, nope,
Thank you.
nope. Okay, so Board of Assessors. Oh, that's the stipends, so we gotta wait for that one. Just wanna make sure I'm not cutting anybody. Okay. We're gonna do people first, Karen, shut up. Okay. So that, guys, gets us to wow, we just did half.
Okay.
Yeah, see, that's good. It's almost like we know what the hell we're doing.
Oh, well, some people don't think so.
$242 left to spend. Okay. Okay. So,
So are there any one big thing?
well, let's now, please, if you don't mind, and why don't we go back through stipends?
Okay,
Okay? Just because I think the people that do get stipends, they do a lot of work for what they're,
What about the town administrator's secretary? We left that out.
Did we leave that out?
How do you expect the office to operate?
That's gotta get put back in.
okay?
What did David just make a motion for?
He said that's got to get put back in.
I think.
Okay.
okay.
Okay. So now we're down to,
Hey, Karen, question for you.
yep, 208 left to spend.
So the DPW staff, did he move to the revolving fund?
The enterprise funds, yep.
Yeah, the clerk, I think you probably would leave that in the revolving fund because I think that work, she was doing revolving fund work. But I think he cut a number of other employees that he moved to the enterprise fund that we really don't want to go to the enterprise fund. We want to keep it to DPW. I don't remember exactly how that looks like, but those half-time positions we want to keep in DPW so they can do DPW work, not and then later on, we decide if we need more staff in the enterprise fund, but we don't want to give up those DPW workers if we don't have to.
Well, the half-ass way received. It's not a lot of work to go through this.
I know Joe is doing that to try to help the budget.
25 million pieces of paper.
I think all of us would agree we need DPW staff, not giving away our staff.
Yeah. Moved 1.5 workers to enterprise funds. I thought when I read reduces labor and staff subsidies for water and sewer enterprise accounts and will be linked to rate increases.
So the part-time clerk position, I think that we should still continue to move that to the enterprise fund. But that, I think we're going to have another full position, which is really 2 half-timers. Those should stay in DPW.
Wouldn't that still add up to the $60,000?
Yeah.
No, that's not part of the 60 grand. 60 grand was snow and ice money.
Yeah, but didn't he? No. So he didn't add anything to the snow and ice budget with his.
He took some. He took 19 instead of the 59.
But hear me out.
Yep.
When we made the cuts the other day.
Yep.
We took $60,000.
Yep.
He moved stuff here, there, and everywhere to make it so that snow and ice should be covered.
More covered.
And more, yeah,
More
maybe
covered.
out, more
Yep.
covered, and he moved people over to the enterprise side.
Yep.
But he only did that to the tune of $60,000. I don't know, that's my only
Yeah.
thought, am I missing?
No, you're right. I have to just look at it. That's the reason why I had to go back and look.
But
So,
I don't know where it all went,
right. Yeah.
but if we give him the 60.
60, he'll have to
Ron,
spread it.
you agree with my theory here, or am I way off base?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, do you have the sheets in front of you of what he did?
I don't, that's why he sent it to you in the back statement. But I
Yes.
don't have how he shifted.
Okay.
Originally, I know he took me out,
Instead of losing 59.9 out of snow and ice, he's taken only 19. The rest of that 59.9 was taken from salaries in highway administration.
that's where he cut staff then.
So giving him back the 59.9 should fix that.
Whatever we could.
I mean, this is, we're all, have I received everybody's? I don't even know. Have I received everybody's?
I think so. I mean, if you got a couple late, but I think you got everybody, as far as I understand, yeah. I don't know, the only one I don't know for sure is the building department, but it's small, but that's the only one I'm, knows where, hundreds of dollars, nothing important, but that's the only one I'm pretty not sure of. I think
Okay, yeah, because
I could have sworn I heard Joe say that it was something that he really needed to do with moving some workers. Anyway, but
yes, because he doesn't have enough to monitor the sewer and water enterprise the way it was. Yeah, that one's, he wrote that all up. So I'm gonna leave it at the 59, and then we'll have to adjust it with how he made these changes, because I work during the day, so I didn't have time to put it all up to date, guys. I don't.
Hey, Karen,
Yes,
do we have to figure in, remember how we had to adjust numbers because of unemployment? Does that, now that these people are back, do we have to fix those numbers back the other way?
thank you for remembering that. Thank you. See?
what was that he said?
I'm gonna take out all those unemployment numbers, because now we're giving them back their jobs. They won't be on unemployment. So that right there,
So that gives us more than the 208 then, right?
No.
Please.
no, because it was an additional cost that now we don't have, so I guess yes. Oh, God. I hate redoing this. Okay. I'm gonna have to figure out how to do all that, but because it was an additional cost, so it was less.
Where will we come?
No, it doesn't. Yeah, I gotta think this through. And it's very tough at this late at night.
Well, so let's think about, where were we accounting for the unemployment?
Down below the line.
Oh,
Yep, down below the line. So it's okay. We'll figure that all out. We still got 200 something. So.
okay.
All right. So what do we think about stipends? Yay, nay?
Well,
So just to backtrack for 1 second, we have reinstated the people or parts of people that we cut the other night. Yes?
We're at that point.
We're at that
They're
point.
back.
Okay.
We have not done COLA or raises.
Yeah,
We have
that's
not done stipends.
another
Those are
level.
the three that we're still at.
But it wasn't just stipends that got us that $208,000. There were other things that we cut.
Right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm just trying. I'm at this point just trying to. So we go through and reinstate bodies, and now we're going to reinstate paychecks,
Right.
just so that we don't miss anything. I just want to make sure that the problem comes in where if you
And
just
we're gonna probably, yes, as good as we are at, there may be something here that we just gonna have to go.
So I've got the $3,000 for the select board. This is a rough pain in the neck. So the planning board. Sorry, guys, I can't help it. I go slow. Catch me at 6 o'clock in the morning, I could listen.
I hear you.
Board of Health was, I think, the other one that we took, so gotta get there. I mean, that's kind of a nuisance. Board of Health, there we go. So the Board of Health, we took away their $750. So I think that's everything. You know how you can tell? So we got I didn't reinstate Randy's because he doesn't usually take it.
Sorry.
So Board of Selectmen, Board of Assessors, Board of Health, and Planning Board. So we got everything. Don't worry, we got plenty.
Could I just ask if they
Sure. What do you mean?
save that file?
Oh, I've been saving it. Don't worry.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Save early, save often.
That's right.
Yep.
Can, I don't know what portion of our 99 that we did the other day, the first cut,
Mm-hmm.
when we took COLAs.
Yep.
And
Yes.
raises.
Yep.
Do we have a number that we can come up with off of that we have to go through one by one?
So let's talk about that. I understand COLAs and steps, et cetera. But are there other items in the budget that we have gone through and taken out significant items
Oh, yeah.
that we should consider putting back before we put the COLAs back?
I would say no, because I think we're giving raises to every one of our union employees. Union contracts give COLAs, and that means any non-union persons are going without. I realize that's the first thing we always cut, and I think that should be one of the first things we put back. That's my opinion.
Okay.
I agree, Karen, 100%.
I agree with David that those individuals are the first ones we always cut. I think the COLAs and steps for all the employees that lost COLAs and steps should be reinstated. And then with the remainder, go through and put back what we can.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation for the next step.
Okay.
Because at this point here, we've got all the staff back. We've got all the stipends back.
Yep.
I think the next thing would be
Increases.
increases.
Mhm.
Because that's a employee retention thing too.
Okay.
My only question, and I don't know the answer to it because I haven't thought about it long enough yet. So those cuts were made earlier than these other cuts. Even though the cuts that we haven't restored, that were sort of this last tier, haven't been put back, do some of them impact services more than the COLAs? And that might be in some of the impact statements, which I have not committed to memory. I'm just throwing it out there because to me, there must have been a reason why we went at those first before we got to the more devastating cuts. And I don't, you know, someone might look at that and say, yeah, I'd really prefer to have the COLA back than purchase the services or supplies or other things that we cut. So I'm just throwing it out there because I don't know the answer to the question, but.
Because I remember one part of it, and Madam Chairwoman said, let's get the low-hanging fruit first. And COLAs and pay raises were the lowest hanging fruit. And I think it's an essential part of, we should get them back to where they should be. I agree with what you're saying, but I think we can, at that point there, we should pick and choose. My own personal opinion is I understand where you're going, but I think we should just get everybody back to where they should be normally, and then we should go from there.
I did see a lot of impact stuff saying morale,
Mhm.
the impact on morale, so I would agree with that.
Yeah.
We
And
typically, that is one of the first things that we cut during our budget iterations.
Right.
And it's not done easily, but it is low hanging fruit. So unfortunately, it's one of the things that we're legally able to, because we can't cut our union contract, so.
So it's low hanging fruit because it's sort of easy to do from a mechanical standpoint.
Exactly.
That's
But
right.
not from a personal
Exactly.
standpoint.
Exactly.
So in that perspective, yeah, it makes all the sense
Yep.
in the world
Yep.
to put it back.
Yeah, none of these cuts are easy to make.
No.
Never mind, guys, that in the last 2 months, cost of living has gone up a lot. Gas, any materials, anything, it's gone up a lot. If you don't give them the raises to keep up with it, you know, that's not fair. I think it definitely has to go back.
Okay.
because this started out, and Karen may correct me, this started out as a level funded budget, not any increases to start. And just to get level funding, it was where it was at, and then we had to cut from there.
Correct.
So I think all those should go back, and then
Good.
I got some no-goes in the truck, Karen.
Oh, no, I'm just reading. I'm just making sure I'm looking at everything like 3 over to make sure that it's
Yeah.
right.
I understand.
Kind of particular about all this stuff. Mhm. Okay, so there we go. 307.1. And then we've got her back to where she was, okay.
Can I be Darren and you mute yourself for a few minutes?
Huh?
Can you mute yourself? I want to ask Ron a couple questions.
I can mute.
Ron. Oh, 1 second.
Sorry, I forgot I gotta do this too.
You're the speaker.
Okay, just as, this is Darren, good evening. Do you have anything that you, after we put everybody's COLA in steps back in your day-to-day operation of our town, do you have any hot button items that you would like to see put back in to the next, after we get through COLAs and steps in regular increases?
I gotta be, how I answer this is kind of hard, right? So trying to think about how this process plays out, Darren. And I'm gonna say what I think, and I'm not trying to cause any pain here. I just think that in some ways, the way we're doing this, the more I'm thinking is when listening to this, we're kind of doing this backwards. In fact, the way I look at this is everything should go back. And then we should look at what $500,000 worth of cuts should we put that if the override doesn't pass, that's what we're going to cut. So to me, it would make it easier than the way we're doing it. If everything, because if everything goes back, what we're talking about is needing $500, $500,000, right? Everything would go back. If we had 500,000, the balance, the budget would be balanced, right? So if you put everything back and then decide what is the $500,000 worth of items, and I think you're adding those up right now. What are the $500,000 worth of items that are going to be cut if the override fails? And that would be the things we're adding back. Even the staff members, the colas and all that stuff would only go back if the override passes. So if you just simply take $500,000 of cuts, everything is back. You take $500,000 of cuts, you match it up to the $500,000 override. I think I could understand it easier, but that's kind of what I'm thinking, because what we're trying to say, as I understand it, is, folks, citizens of Rutland, if you don't vote for the override, this is the $500,000 worth of things we're going to lose, right? That's the cuts. So, we think we're doing it the same way, but we're kind of doing it backwards, is the way
Well, if the,
making it hard for me to understand.
correct me if I'm wrong, if the $500,000 override doesn't go,
These
our
500
deep cuts are where it's gonna be.
right.
So why we came up with this idea is we're coming from the other way, Ron. If
I know
you
you're-
get 500,000, here's where what you'll save. I guess there's two ways of looking at it.
Yep, there is. But that's why I'm having, and the only reason I said that is because that's why I'm having a hard time understanding like what we should give back, because we're giving back the positions that I think we all recognize we're going to lose if the override doesn't pass, right? And now I'm like, it's kind of scattered as to there's all kinds of other things. There's all these small $500, 200 cuts all over the place. The RDIC cut. Those are all things that are going to have to go back in. But it's I guess really what we need to do is come up with the $500,000 of things that if the override doesn't go in, that stuff's what's going to be cut, and everything else is back. But it's all kind of all over the place in terms of those things now. So I can't. I'm having a hard time answering your question.
We can attack it from a different direction here, but I think we're going and we're just having a group discussion here. I think that the course that we're on is one of two courses, and we can compare. We can go the other way also, but we started at 649, and you would trim.
I know.
So where I was going with this is there something when we get through this or that extra 149,000 that you think is more important, and we're gonna maybe have some opportunity to do that. That's where I was going with it. Not
Yeah, I know.
because you cut originally 149, give or take, to get to where the 500.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering where we.
Yeah, no, and truthfully, as I've been listening, I think all the things you guys are adding back should be in the 500,000 of the cuts, because those are the things we would lose if we do that.
Correct.
I'm just scared because there's a bunch of these little things out there that I don't have in front of me to try to add back. Obviously, they got the little cuts in the inspector's office. I cut some small accounts in the town clerk's account. There's all kinds of small cuts that, if we get the $500,000 should be put back in. But I can't see the one big thing, because the big things are things we've already put back in, We put back in the big salary.
We're gonna have a number here pretty quick.
Yeah.
Madam Chairwoman is going through this as we speak,
Yeah.
so we're gonna know where we are.
The issue is once you get to a $500,000 number, everything else is automatically back in. Just so you understand, though, once you get your $500,000 number, anything you guys didn't talk about that were cuts, you can put back in. Because we're only talking about the $500,000 of things to match up to the override, right? So whatever you don't pick is automatically in, not subject to the override.
Well, that would be subject to a town administrator coming back in and saying, hey, in the beginning, I cut X to get back to where you guys started. So if you thought there was something there that was really important, more so than $500 for supplies or something like that, that's where I'm going wrong. I understand that everything's back, but I don't know what else. We still got 149,000.
to put back in. So I guess I would say to you, because the way I guess I'm trying to look at the document that might be on the town warrant, right? So we're gonna have all the different accounts listed straight down, and all of them are gonna say that they're fully funded completely. But then I think to the right of that, as I looked at the last override, to the right of that, Karen, I think you might have a listing of the $500,000 cuts that if you don't vote for the override, these are the cuts that are going to happen, and that's the 500,000 you're billing right now.
Correct.
So that's what I mean by on the left-hand column is going to be everything, all the totals that are currently existing in the budget as I presented it. And then the other part is going to be the second column, which just outlines the $500,000 in cuts. So that's what I mean by everything else is back except for the 500 you outlined.
That's the way we're going at it. And for better or for worse, we're gonna re-engineer it the other way too. But for right now, that's what we're trying to do.
So you got to find $500,000. I guess I think the goal here is to make citizens understand what they're going to lose, right? So that $500,000 should be important things that they understand that are going to be lost. So I think anything that is more serious in nature should be in the 500,000, so people understand these are the service we're going to lose. Nobody's going to care if $200 in the inspector's office is in that 500,000.
That's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why we're coming.
Should be automatic and not really put into it. But what I'm trying to say is you guys are hitting most of the big stuff, because truthfully, if we get the 500,000 back, we might not have to use the full 120 grand of full cash. That may be able to be saved in it.
Yes, we're reversing it we're coming up from the bottom to do exactly what you want to do, but it's just a different way of looking at it, right? Glass half empty, green, blue,
I agree. It's just a little harder to grasp this way, but I understand what you're doing. I'm not objecting to it. I'm just trying to, as you guys are doing it, I'm thinking it through more and more. And I think you want to focus on the $500,000 that you are going to cut if this override doesn't go through, and make that package. And then everything else gets automatically put in, and we demonstrate the $500,000 of losses to the citizens. So
and that's
you
what,
need to
and
get
that's
to
kind of
500
what we're
grand
doing.
in more critical cuts.
Well, that's the impact statement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Karen, so where are we now?
We have 168,529.
Step. With all the steps, all the coolers.
I put everything back to the TA request.
Put those all back in that 500 grand, because those are the things that, if they don't vote for the override, those are the things that are definitely going to be cut, right? So those should all be part of the 500 grand.
So Ron, I don't know if you were able to hear Karen. After going reversing back through everything, we've got 168,000 right now.
Left to spend.
Left of the 500,000 to put back in.
So Karen, you got the sheets in front of you. I would say add back into that 500,000 the things you think that the voters are going to be concerned about, that they're not going to want to lose if the override went forward. So I just don't have that, but those are the kind of things you want to put back in.
Right. Which is why
I just don't have that list in front of me. So
be something that the voters would want.
Yeah, no, people. Yeah, we went from the people first to the stipends to the.
Right.
We went that way. So now we still.
So understand that if the $500,000 override fails, those people are leaving. That's the issue, because you tied that 500 to the override. So it's the first thing you put back out, but those are the first thing that leave if the override fails, right?
Yeah.
Is there any other kind of, Karen, and again, I don't have it in front of me, is there any other big cut that we made that we would definitely, if we lose the override, we're okay with getting rid of it? I mean, obviously the town report, that's only $575, but that is something that probably should go in the 500,000. I'm sure people don't really want to lose the town report. All the fire cuts that we made, which ones are, if the 500,000 doesn't go forward,
Okay.
because we did like the gear, the fire gear was a pretty significant cut. That might be one that we want to put in that 500,000 that, unless they vote for the 500,000, they're going to lose that fire gear. It was $10,000 of fire replacement equipment on account 5870. That 10 grand probably should go in the 500, right?
Yep. You had a whole list of stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list up until when you guys started making your cuts. My list.
The additional, so it's $10,000.
Library, you put the wages back, the aides back in already. Outreach director, you put in.
Which means the fire, which means if we reinstate the
Police
8,900,
officers we put back in.
they have to do.
Yep.
I would say that you can do, these are smaller, but you can do community center purchases services for 1,000. That could be part of it. The 2,000 for the public safety building could be two things that could go back in with the 500,000.
Want to make sure I'm quoting it correctly.
I think the reserve fund should be funded back.
Yeah, the reserve funds would be the other one. That was a significant hit.
Thank you. I didn't have-
Fire purchases services, that 8,900
Yeah.
can go back in. Fire supplies.
Even that other charges line, oh
What
no,
do I
it's
say?
the other charges is only 1,000.
Stupid
That,
cuts.
to be able to do more.
Well, the fire money can go back in those fire things we cut.
Okay, this reduction will be directly required annual testing for the apparatus resulting in FOIA. Because if we don't do that testing, it could result in the town taking on a liability if an accident happens, resulting in.
Building inspector supplies, all these little things.
That's the one that Ron had with this candy.
Oh, I probably, I don't know, did I send that
From
out?
what date is yours?
That's the one that he had the last
The
Thursday.
last Thursday one,
4/6.
yes, you have it in
I
paper.
want to print it out, I've got it
I think I have it online.
right there. Do you have it pulled up on those?
So,
I would say all the cuts you guys made, in addition to my cuts, so all of those should be part of the 500 grand. And I think you've already got most of them.
Before Ron cuts and before our cuts, what was the total? Was it like 479?
And I got you guys down to about 260,000. And then you guys added a whole bunch.
Right, but before your cuts, Ron.
What's that?
Before your cuts.
Oh, it started at $1,095,000.
Oh no, I know that, but I think right before your cuts, I thought the number was like 479.
Yeah,
479 is the number I have written down.
yeah, these sections, they kind of did it in sections, if you remember, Do I have that sheet? I don't think I have that sheet with me. The first round got us to 659. The second round, I think, got us to 471,166. That's where the second round of cuts I made were. And then the third set that I did got us down to, I think it was like 260 something.
So
253, 150.
Ron, you've got the 479 ones sitting in front of you.
471,66, yeah, I do.
Is there anything on there that you?
Well, so I'll tell you what they're there, and these are things that we already put back in. These are put back in though. These should not be in the 500,000. The health plan, the refinancing of debt, and potential use of free cash is a revenue.
Yep.
Add funds from the revolving account for the town planner, health department clerical, 7,188. That shouldn't be in it because that was a revenue. So those are the only ones that get us from the 659 to the 471. Then the accounts that can go back are in the town administrator, other charges was $1,000. Town administrator purchase services, $500, because these are the things that would get cut if the override goes down. Board of Selectmen purchases service was $1,000. Town clerk supplies $250, town clerk other charges $250. tax title purchases, 2,000. Those are all things that we would lose if we don't get the 500,000. So that those should all be in that 500 grand. You guys, Karen, you had that sheet that I gave you guys? Community services, purchase services, public safety, building. There's a whole list of things that you guys agreed to cut that are things that should be put back as that 500 grand. But a lot of them are small, you know.
Karen, it'll be down to 150 now.
I'm trying to make sure I get
Oh,
everything.
I understand. I'm not rushing you.
When we rush, that's when I'm moving straight.
We're not trying to rush you.
So I'm not that bad.
Probably would be easier for Karen if she had that sheet. I just don't know if she has it.
We have 111, 594 left, okay. But I want to double check. Because we were taking good cover of everything.
It's now it's getting to there's been 3 different iterations of this, and now you hate to miss something. That's the,
Well, if we're not gonna be coming up with anything specific, should we not be allowing or providing guidance to the managers as to what they would have to work on their own?
No, in this case, with what would be for 500, we're gonna keep this and stick with it because they've already told us what they're gonna take with the cuts.
Told us what they're gonna take. from
So with our first cuts,
them. Right,
they told us where they were gonna take it, so most of them kept where we were, but like police changed it and all that. So he's gone through and he's adjusted his,
okay.
so, and as did highway. Okay, but other than that, what we're saying is, of these cuts, that no one has accepted, but we have no other choice.
Right.
What if the override passes, what cuts will be reinstated?
Right.
So that's all we're doing. We're not gonna give and say, you can put it wherever. These are the cuts, so these are the ones that get reinstated, because we have to put numbers with numbers to say, if you don't vote for it, here's what you're gonna lose. If you do vote for it, this is the stuff that will be added back.
I guess the point, what I was saying, what I was attempting to say, didn't say it very well, is that if they, whatever those cuts are, that we have now put back in steps, salaries of people, whatever, that's reduced the number, the amount that we have to find to put back. And what we would try and do is try and figure out of what remains, what should go back and where. And maybe the manager would want to be able to do something, the department head would want to be able to do something some other place.
well,
Because those cuts were our cuts, not theirs. So if we said he was going to spend 200, we took out 50, and then we put back 25 in labor and other stuff, would we not be able to say, well, if you need to be able to take that 20 out of 25 and manage the rest of because with Ron's cuts and our cuts, it's already down to a point where we're sort of micromanaging that whole group, right? I mean, isn't that?
We aren't micromanaging them. When we gave them our quote unquote cuts from last Thursday, they had the opportunity to go in. So DPW did it and police did it. And I haven't read through everybody, so I
Right.
can't say, because they all came in today. They went in and said, no, we disagree with this, and we're gonna take it from here, we're gonna take it from here, so there were a lot of other things that got spread out.
Okay,
So at this point, we have to go match 1-for-1 to say, these are the cuts if you don't vote for it, and these are the cuts that will be reinstated if you vote for it. You know what I'm saying? We
Okay,
can't
I
just
see.
say,
all right.
here it is,
well, let me go at this a different way.
okay?
David mentioned the reserve fund,
That's
and someone would, I'd like to, you've been around here a long time, and so has David, on the finance committee side. Should we consider, scrub this down and get the little things if we think they're good. These little $500 here, $500 there. But I think for our financial future, we almost we have no reserve or no free cash. I think some of that should be let the people know that that's what we got to do it just for we have no rainy day. So I'm wondering if the rest of at a certain point we spend $20,000 to get the paper, the copy of stuff, all that stuff, purchase services, and then put everything towards free cash and reserve. Because if we don't, we're only setting ourselves up for failure in a little bit, right?
Free cash is only generated when they don't spend.
Right, but if you put free cash back, if you did $500,000, we'd be that. If we still had 120,000, am I wrong in saying that? Shouldn't we put money back in there? We use that.
So not use as much free cash as we said we were going
Am I thinking crazy?
No, we could do that. Go ahead, don't raise your hand, you can just speak. You can just speak.
to.
Yeah,
So
that's cool.
here's another way to look at it. I don't know if it's the right way or wrong. We need to try to convince town meeting that the override needs to be passed. They're gonna look at some of these things and say, I can wrap my head around having police officers on the street, firemen available. Your average layperson is not necessarily gonna wrap their head around free cash.
True.
You will have a segment of people that say, I really think COLAs and things should go back. That's the nice humanistic thing to do.
Mhm.
You're gonna have other people say, I gotta pay cut my job, that's not my, so those are some things to think about. So, one thing that just occurred to me, Ron mentioned a cut at town hall in $250. She says that's all our toner cartridges. So you go up there, you want your birth certificate.
Yep.
Well, sorry, I can't print it for you, but
That'd be 25.
those are, I think, some things we need to try and wrap around our head, because I would agree with you, knowing the inner workings of it, that some of that, spending the free cash, that's why the hell we're in this.
Is the reserve fund, did you put money back in the reserve
Yeah,
fund?
for the 10,334 that we took out. Because I know that when we budget tightly, that
Yes.
25 gets used because there will always be
Something.
books that will need to be funded, and that's our only means to fund it. And they can fund it right away without having to call a town meeting. So that's the reason why.
Practical thing to do.
So how do we get tonight? How do we get the copiers, the paper,
This is where we go, we just keep going down, just keep adding.
So we want to take it from the perspective of a general category, like supplies. What do we take out of supplies? We put all that back in? Or contracted services or something along those lines?
I'm just going through, I'm just putting everything back in and just trying to figure it out from there, and then we can see where we're at. And
Okay,
this is just,
well, if,
the other concern I have is I have not gone over and seen where everything got moved to get this budget to match what they've all done. So I'm concerned that we're moving things that
Maybe you don't know if they use that latitude we gave them yet, because we haven't had the time to.
so
look at
when you get this to where you want to do, we could always go with if we have time, and I think we will, go with the town administrator's suggestion that we hit it from the other way to see if we meet up at the same place. Would you agree with that?
I didn't listen to.
Okay.
I think we could do it a lot faster that way, that's all, because I think it would be less complicated, but just literally put everything back and then outline the $500,000 cuts. And you guys have already done that, so, you know the budget right now. Although the budget I gave you, the deficit was $1,095,000. So, we got to put back this, the school number, Massachusetts school number's got to go back. And we put in those, the insurance things and all those things back. And we'll get closer to that $500,000 number pretty quickly. And then we know the kinds of things we want the $500,000 to be because you just spent hours outlining them,
We never cut the school number.
No, I think I'm stuck.
Yeah, it's up to you guys.
They cut it.
Right.
Why would we take that back?
No, I think if I understand what he's saying is go put every cut back.
Mhm.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
No, you gotta get to the 649 and then pull it out.
so let me kind of try to give you the thought process, right? So I gave you this sheet. Remember, we started with a $1,095,000 deficit, right? And the first couple of series of cuts I gave you started reducing that $95 million downward. But those cuts were in nature, at least the first couple to get us down to like 471, were really not that horrible of cuts. So, I mean, you could really just start with all the numbers from the original budget I gave you, and add back the 321,000, and just keep going down the sheet and adding those first ones in there, and then you can pretty much outline as you get down to the more difficult cuts you guys made. I mean, and it's actually my last round of cuts was difficult too with the police officers and stuff. Then you start plugging those in, and I think you'll pretty quickly see where that $500,000 is. And that I think I could do that in an hour tomorrow and get it down to where it'd be a lot easier to understand. I mean, it just means that my first 4 hours tomorrow, I gotta, because I'm leaving half a day, I'd have to get that out for you guys. But it's up to you how you want to do it. It's very difficult. That's all. I could get it down, cleaned up pretty quick, I think.
Ready now, Karen? Or you still working?
Yeah, whatever you want.
Pretty much put everything back, but guys, I think I gotta go in and I gotta make the changes that they need.
Right.
And then verify. I'm uncomfortable doing it this way because everything's changed on here. I haven't changed it here. I wanna make sure that we're given something that we should. I wanna. do
Right,
the same
and I agree with you.
because
So,
the minute we try to monkey around with this without going through these impact statements and making sure that what we have is what they have, we're gonna
so
hook up the work.
do you,
I can have that ready for us Tuesday. We're gonna do the town meeting.
So is there anything I can do for you?
It depends upon what you want. We can have that conversation. That's easy enough. So the only thing would be is let's get that done.
Okay.
And then let's do this. Let's finalize this on Thursday.
so is it worth having him give his perspective? No.
So if there's something I can do to help you do that,
We'll have a conversation.
okay.
All right.
So what does everyone agree with that? Because I think if I get that to where all of these are, then that way we're matching one for one and we're not missing anything. I think that'll be helpful.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys can see it, but if I understood what Ron was saying, the 253, that's that number where we really started slashing. We chronologically put those back in.
Right.
Which I think what he was saying, and then he was saying build up, back up from that, which is not necessarily what we were saying.
Well, there was that step in between where he said, hey, guys, take it and go back and do some stuff. And they did that. They sliced and diced. And that's fine. They had it the way they wanted. So they really changed their budget. And now we're looking to be able to go back and say, well, we're going to
And it's not easy. I understand exactly what she's saying.
Because the thing is, we said we were gonna take it from here, now they're taking it from here,
Right.
here.
So if we make an adjustment, we could be saying, well, we're gonna put back money that they've already zeroed out.
Right. And
Or
that's-
they put back the money where they've
Right,
already.
and I wanna make sure that we're matching one for one, because at some point we have to get it back to one for one.
Well,
because
absolutely.
What the FinCom recommended budget cuts are still gonna be the budget cuts, it's just gonna be different accounts that they came from.
Correct.
That's it. And
Correct.
then when we do the $500,000 override passing, then we should match them up with what that is. So we can go one for one and say exactly what we're putting back. And it'll match with the impact statements.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
That make sense? Can be short.
Yeah, the only hesitation I have, Ron said it would take him an hour to do it his way tomorrow. Is there any harm in telling him to go ahead and do it just so we have it for comparison value?
Yeah, I would like to see it. I'm not saying we're gonna go that route, but I would like
no,
to.
but it's, like you said, like Ted was saying, it's at least an offset to be able to say, once we get everything else, how does that work out?
Go ahead.
Ron, it's,
The finance committee would ask.
the finance committee would ask that you could spend a precious few hours giving us your perspective on what you would do to get to 500,000.
Yeah, I think I can do that relatively easy, and I can work with the town accountant too. I just want to, what I would frankly do is use our budget sheet, the column that I gave you, the original column that shows the $1,095,000 deficit, and then have two separate columns. I'm thinking, because you got to remember, there's a whole bunch of revenues that have to be added to the revenue side of the budget here. The free cashes and all that would go in the revenue. So they're really not cuts. They're increases to revenue. So then I go through and I cut the school assessment, put all those things in it. So I'm thinking to be three columns. One would show the revenue in it. One would show, I would just simply leave things alone and take out and show the cuts that you guys have already talked about. The things, the salaries, all that stuff. Just those would have to take out the reductions that you guys have for that. I guess I would just need, because I guess I would need, I can actually do it by the cuts that Karen gave me already, because she gave me the sheet with all the reductions. So give me a couple hours, I'll send it to you guys, and you guys can decide if you want to use it or not use it. I'll try to put it in a simple form for you guys, and at the very least, I'll get you close, It's up to you. I think a couple hours tomorrow morning, I can give you a pretty good document you could work from.
I think that we would, as a consensus, like to see that side of it, and then we will evaluate it and come up with a great plan from there.
Yeah.
But
And truthfully, I'm fine with that, and I'll give you something. I may not get it totally complete because I'm gonna be on vacation next week, but I think it'll give you a place to kind of finish from,
okay,
And it's really a lot of things you talked about tonight. I got a gist of what you guys are doing, so it's not. I don't think it's gonna be that crazy. It's just I got to create the form in the way that makes it easy, because I think what Karen's looking to do is to show town meeting, have the line of, okay, this is the budget that you can vote on. If you approve the 500, all this stuff passes. But if you don't vote for the override, these are the cuts that we're going to have to make if you don't vote for the override. And I think that's what she's really looking for, kind of a comparison budget of what you're going to get with the override, what you're going to get without the override. I think is what we're trying to do. And I think you guys are going to need to kind of put that in a pretty form, and then also put it in, I don't know if you're going to put it in a handout or a way to kind of package it to sell it out to people, maybe it's something you can put on the internet and all that stuff. But, give me the shot, and you don't like what I do, you don't have to use it, but at least you'll have a tool to work from.
okay. Thank you, and I don't have a problem with that. Is there any other information or thing we have to talk about? You just nod, or I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn for tonight, because you got a little bit to do. We'll go from there.
Karen, I will send you before noon tomorrow I'll send you what I have so you can build it out from where you can look at what I'm on or build it out any way you want, but it'll give you, I think, a good format to work from, okay?
You want to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion that at this point tonight, we adjourn.
Second.
Go ahead, I'm gonna shut mine off.
Okay, we have a,
It was quick.
we have a first by Darren and a second by Pete to adjourn. We will now take a roll call vote. Dave?
Lucy, aye.
Dave said aye. Pete? Pete?
O'Malley, aye.
O'Malley says aye. Darren?
Ross, aye.
Ross says aye. Purcell?
Purcell, aye.
And Narwhal aye. We're adjourned at 7:21. Thanks, guys.